You take off your socks at the end of the day and notice something that was barely there that morning. The skin around your ankles looks fuller. The elastic left a deeper line. Maybe one shoe felt tighter during the last few hours. And one thought can arrive very quickly. Is this my heart? Sometimes the heart is part of the explanation. But swollen ankles are not a heart diagnosis. The same visible swelling can appear through several very different pathways. The useful question is not simply, why is there fluid here? It is, why did it collect here? Why now, and what pattern came with it? Start with the simplest part of the scene. Your ankles are near the bottom of your body for much of the day. When you spend hours sitting or standing, gravity favors movement of fluid toward the lower legs. The National Library of Medicine notes that swelling can become more noticeable in the feet and ankles for exactly this reason, especially after long periods upright or seated. That means evening matters, but probably not in the way people first assume. A fuller ankle at 7 p.m. does not automatically tell you that an organ is failing. Sometimes the clock is simply revealing what accumulated across the day. The medical word for this swelling is edema. It means excess fluid has collected in the tissues. That definition is useful once. After that, the real investigation begins because edema describes what you can see, not why it happened. One person may notice swelling after spending most of the day on their feet. Another may have a recurring problem with the veins that help move blood back up the legs. A third may be taking a medication that changes how fluid moves through small blood vessels. And yes, heart or kidney problems can also produce swelling. The ankle may look similar even when the pathway is different. That is why jumping directly from a sock mark to heart failure skips most of the useful questions. If you like explanations that take an everyday change and separate what it might suggest from what it can actually prove, subscribe to The Quiet Heart. That is the kind of investigation we do here. Now look again at what a long day can do. When you are walking, the muscles in your calves help squeeze veins and support blood returning upward. Long stretches of sitting or standing can make that return less efficient. Gravity continues pulling downward while pressure in the lower leg veins can remain higher than it would be when you are lying down. For some people, that is enough to make more fluid move into the surrounding tissue by evening. That helps explain why an ankle may look different after a long day than it did after a night in bed. But if the swelling keeps returning, becomes more noticeable, or comes with other changes in the legs, the explanation may go beyond the day itself. This is where the veins deserve a closer look. Chronic venous disease can make it harder for blood in the legs to return efficiently. Clinical vascular guidelines recognize swelling and edema as part of that spectrum. Some people also notice heaviness, aching, visible veins, or skin changes. Those features do not identify the cause by themselves, but they can shift the question from, did I just stand too long today, to, is this becoming a recurring pattern in how my legs handle the day? That distinction matters because occasional swelling after an unusual day and swelling that repeatedly returns under ordinary conditions are not the same story. And the time on the clock is still only one part of it. Something else can make the ankles swell while having almost nothing to do with how long you were standing. It may already be sitting in the medicine cabinet. A medication can be doing its intended job and still contribute to ankle swelling. Amlodipine is a good example. It is widely used to treat high blood pressure, and current U.S. prescribing information lists edema as its most common adverse reaction. That does not mean everyone taking amlodipine will develop swollen ankles, and it does not mean swelling in someone who takes it must be caused by the medication. The important point is that medication belongs in the context. Some blood pressure medicines change the way pressure is handled in small blood vessels. Under certain conditions, that can make it easier for fluid to move into surrounding tissue, especially in the lower legs. So a person can look down at swollen ankles and assume the cardiovascular system is getting worse when medication may be part of the picture. That is a very different question. And it is one reason a new or changing pattern of swelling is worth discussing rather than interpreting alone. Stopping a prescription, reducing the dose, or changing the time you take it based on ankle swelling can create a different problem. The observation is useful. The medication decision belongs with a qualified healthcare professional who can look at the full situation. Now, return to the explanation many people feared from the beginning. The heart. Heart failure can cause swelling in the ankles, feet, and legs. The national heart, lung, And Blood Institute includes that swelling among the symptoms that can occur when the heart is not moving blood effectively enough to meet the body's needs. But ankle swelling by itself is not enough to identify heart failure. That matters because the word heart carries much more emotional weight than the appearance of the ankle deserves on its own. When heart failure is involved, clinicians look at the larger pattern. Has breathing changed? Has ordinary activity become harder? Has there been an unusual change in weight or fluid retention? Are there other signs of congestion? The answer is not hiding in the ankle alone. By this point, several very different situations can end with a similar-looking lower leg. A long day upright, a venous problem, a medication effect, or a heart-related fluid problem. That is where the investigation has to change direction. Because the time of day is useful, but it may not be the strongest clue. Two other details can reorganize the whole map much faster. Is the swelling mainly on one side or on both? And did it appear suddenly or has it developed gradually? Those questions do not diagnose the cause. They change which possibilities deserve attention first. Swelling in both ankles that builds gradually over time belongs to a different clinical pattern from new swelling that appears mainly in one leg. The same is true for swelling that has been slowly recurring for months compared with swelling that appeared over a much shorter period. This is the point where the clock becomes less important. By evening helped us notice the clue, but symmetry and speed begin to tell us what kind of investigation we are actually dealing with. Which changed the way you think about ankle swelling most? The time of day, one side versus both, or how quickly it appeared? Tell me which one in the comments. You do not need to share symptoms, diagnoses, or medication names. Lower leg swelling can come from a local problem or from something affecting fluid balance throughout the body. And that brings us to the kidneys. Healthy kidneys help control how much salt and water stays in the body. When kidney function becomes impaired enough, excess fluid can accumulate. Some kidney conditions can also allow important proteins to leak into the urine, which can make it easier for fluid to move into tissues. That swelling may eventually become noticeable in the feet, ankles, or legs, but swollen ankles do not diagnose kidney disease, and the absence of swelling does not rule it out. The National Institute of Diabetes and Digestive and Kidney Diseases points out that early chronic kidney disease often causes no symptoms at all. So the ankle is still showing us an endpoint. It cannot tell us which path created it. The 5 possibilities in this investigation have now done something more useful than give us a list. They have shown why the same physical clue can mean very different things depending on the pattern around it. And there is one pattern that deserves to interrupt the calm investigation. New swelling that develops mainly in one leg is different from gradual swelling that has been appearing on both sides. One possible reason is a deep vein thrombosis, or DVT, a blood clot in a deep vein. The CDC lists swelling in the affected limb, along with possible pain or tenderness, warmth, and redness or discoloration among symptoms that can occur with DVT. Those signs do not prove a blood clot. Other conditions can look similar, and some DVTs cause few or no obvious symptoms. But new or worsening one-sided swelling deserves prompt medical evaluation rather than a home diagnosis. If unexplained shortness of breath, significant chest pain or discomfort, coughing up blood, fainting, or other severe symptoms raise concern for a pulmonary embolism or another medical emergency, immediate care is needed. In the United States, call 911 for a suspected emergency. That safety line matters, but it should not turn every evening sock mark into a crisis. Most useful observations are much quieter. When did the swelling first appear? Is it mainly one ankle or both? Did it arrive quickly or develop gradually? Does it come and go, or has it become persistent? Did anything else change around the same time? Those details do not turn you into your own clinician. They make the pattern easier to communicate. My ankles are swollen is only the beginning of a useful conversation. My ankles started looking different about 3 weeks ago, adds context. It is happening on both sides and becoming more noticeable by evening, adds more. It started after a medication change, is information worth reporting without deciding that the medication is the cause. I noticed one leg suddenly became more swollen than the other, changes the conversation again. The goal is not to attach a disease name to each variation. It is to preserve the details that help a qualified healthcare professional ask better questions. There is also a practical reason people care about this clue. Ankles and feet are part of daily independence. Swelling can make shoes feel tighter. Walking can become less comfortable. A person may begin choosing different footwear, avoiding longer outings, or wondering whether travel and ordinary activity will make the problem worse. What looks like a small change at the end of the day can begin affecting how someone moves through the next one. That is why proportion matters. A little swelling after an unusually long day on your feet may have a very different context from swelling that keeps returning, becomes progressively worse, or appears alongside other health changes. The first may be something you simply notice. The second deserves a conversation, and certain sudden or severe patterns deserve faster evaluation. If this kind of distinction helps you look at everyday changes with more clarity and less alarm, subscribe to The Quiet Heart. We will keep separating what a clue may suggest from what it can actually prove. Now go back to the moment that opened this investigation. The sock comes off. There is a deeper line around the ankle. At first, it seemed to ask one frightening question. Is this my heart? Now the same mark means something different. The heart is one possible explanation, but it is not the only one. Before any organ name becomes the conclusion, the pattern still matters. One side or both, sudden or gradual, temporary or persistent. The sock mark was never a verdict. It was simply the place where several different processes could leave the same visible trace.